the sledgehammer versus the club versus the steel mace. What's the difference?
Is this a good substitute? Can you use this to really replace the mace completely? Short answer is you can substitute it, but it has a lot of limitations, I would say quite big limitations. So I would utilize this, but I would strongly consider also at some point upgrading to the mace, because this is an upgrade if we consider these. But first we can look at least like 4 major differences to just go through here. And the most obvious that you can maybe see in comparing this sledgehammer and the mace is just the length of the lever. So you can see that this one is longer, this one is shorter. That's one difference. And then we can look at the thickness of the grip here actually. So you can see that this one is evenly round and it's much thicker compared to the handle of the sledgehammer. And same, you can actually see, even if we compare to the club here, that this one is much thicker, for example, compared here. So this is not an even round handle. So then we can also look at the weight distribution. So weight distribution wise, these are very similar because all of the weight is in the end of that lever, compared to, for example, to the club, where I actually have it divided more broadly over this lever. Then we can also look at the shape of that weight. So this one, again, this one is a very different shape to both of these, but also we have a big difference here. This is in a much more compact position, like this way, and it's symmetrical, whereas this one has a very, broad, it's divided on a broad area, the weight, and also you have sharp angles here. That does make actually a difference. Within all these 4 differences, the length of the lever, the width of the grip, the weight distribution, and also the shape of the weight. So all of these differences, how do they actually affect the practice with these maces? So if you're completely new to this, maces are a great tool for different type of swinging training. So I can swing here in the front of my body or behind my body, like this way. I can also do twisting swings like so, or more like a unilateral swings, like clean type of swing like this way. So this is really what I mainly use the mace for, because you can do basic gym exercises, with all kind of dumbbells and barbells. The mace has unique benefits really from that swinging mechanics. So if you look at now and compare it to this sledgehammer here, I can surely swing it in a quite similar manner. I can do these movements here, single arm. Also I can do the double. It's a little bit light for that. So from the outside, if you look at it, from the surface level, it's fairly similar. But for instance, when you have a longer lever, like with this one, it makes it more challenging. A longer lever, I have more possibilities to adjust my difficulty here, because I can always, if this is too hard for me, I can just move my arms closer, and then as I get better, I can move here and I can make it more difficult, right? So longer lever gives you options regards to that, whereas in this one, I really cannot lengthen that lever. And the biggest difference, if we go still to the length of the lever, because this one is certainly similar, or it's actually even less of the. So the length of the lever is not everything, but at least for me, I have both these because I like to actually change around between the tools. So I'd like to have the options. If you only have sledgehammer, you really don't have much options. But one of the biggest difference for me why I like more to utilize the Mace and why I think that is actually better and why you cannot completely substitute it with these ones is related to the handle and its thickness. So one of the biggest benefits for me when I started to train with the Mace in the beginning was that this was thick. It's thicker than a regular barbell, and that made a huge stimulus or different stimulus wise compared to training, you know, my training that I had done with the like dumbbells, barbells, or even just hanging from a pull-up bar. So the thickness made a huge difference because it's much more difficult to squeeze it and grip it and hold on to it. And as you're doing and performing these different swinging motions, I have to really hold on to and grip that bar like very hard. I really need to utilize all my strength in the forearm and really squeeze it to hold on to it. And that's the big benefit. That actually develops that grip strength that I really want to have. So with this one, I'm not getting it. It's such a different feeling, like I'm grabbing something much more bony and thin when I'm gripping this. It's not that you're not gaining any grip strength benefits, and certainly, for example, my wrist has stabilized, so I'm working on the wrist strength here, but I'm still not, like, something is certainly lacking when I'm doing this. It is much easier to grip this one. And the weight wise, these are nearly the same actually. So this is like 5.5 kilo, this is 6 kilo, and the difference is huge in how much I really need to utilize this. And because I've been, of course, training quite a lot with this, it already feels relatively comfortable, but still, in the beginning especially, you cannot even notice the difference. Like you're utilizing this, and you can't even, if you never tried the Mace, you will never know that how much big of a difference it makes to really have a strong or the thicker grip. So that's a big difference that really I think sledgehammers just don't raise to the same level with the Maces, or even with the clubs for that matter, because this one is much thicker. And that's why I also like even these, although these are shorter lever, I really love to use them because I just get that good thick grip. Then to the weight distribution and also the shape. So shape of this weight here. Once again, like I feel comfortable swinging this, but I think for many beginners it's not very convenient to approach training with this one. Like I can tell you that it's very scary in the beginning, and for most people, and for me it was to swing this thing behind my head. And that is just like a round ball, it's kind of nice. This one has like very sharp edges, and it can like rotate behind your back in a way where the weight easily can maybe scratch your back or scratch your buttocks. Like this doesn't make such a difference if you're on a higher level, but if you're starting your practice, like many people are who are asking about this, it can cause like difficulties in your progress as you're trying to progress, because you really need to have quite a bit of courage to just swing something like that behind your back. And for that matter, the shape also, because like if I'm just comparing these two, so this one is longer, all the weight is in the top. It is to an extent more difficult to, for example, hold it here, but having it more difficult is not all that is to it. Like I said, the convenience has to also be addressed. So I love the clubs because they are very smooth, they are beautiful made, they swing very in a soft and nice manner. So it's a very this is artwork almost, I would say, that is specifically designed for this purpose. Like you don't necessarily need to even get the Indian club to start with the Mace, but comparing these, you know, it's just not as convenient. That is my opinion for it. And especially if you're a beginner, you will find probably much more success with this one. Sometimes having the weight divided like this way, and the fact that it's slightly easier to handle, it's a benefit. It's a big benefit. For example, I trained with these a ton because it was easier to handle, for example, compared to the steel Mace, which has a much longer lever. And because of that, I was able to train with much more volume, and gain much more benefits. So you need to also consider that sometimes the more, let's say, like more difficult is not always better. Another big difference that is not really related to the mechanics of the tool itself, but is still there, is that usually for these maces, because they are like an actual training tool, and there are companies that sell these, you can get, you can very gradually increase your weight. Like you can get from like 2 kilo, 4 kilo, 5 kilo, 6 kilo, 8 kilo, 10 kilo, 12 kilo, 15 kilo, I think up to like 20 kilos. You can very gradually increase it, and this way like progress with the weight. Whereas in the sledgehammers, well, this is 10 pounds, this is 12 pounds, like you can find probably different weights for them, but at least here, the stores that I've checked on from the online, mostly all of them just sell 10 pound, the 10 pound sledgehammer. And that, like, it can be a good weight to begin with, but at some point you might feel that you want to try something else. And same way, like I explained already about this lever as well, you cannot really, there are limits to how much you can adjust the lever. And another also related to this one is the price difference, because some people, oh, well, I don't want to spend the money for it. I want to get something cheap like a sledgehammer. But to be honest, the prices, for example, here what I checked for the sledgehammers, it varies between like $20 to $50. And the price range for up to like 8 kilo maces here is same. It's in the same price range. So maybe you are saving $20 or $10, but is it really worth the saving instead of having a much more versatile tool for yourself? I don't think so. At least for me, it's not. So even the price difference is not something like, because I think that that's one of the biggest factors for some people. They don't want to spend the money for it, but if you're going to buy it, you're still going to have to spend money. Like, these are not the cheapest equipment. This is like real steel. You're gonna need to have to pay for that as well. So I'd say also more like a maybe personal reason, but I think for most people also, if you get this mace, you will find it that it's much more enjoyable to train with. Like, it's actually like, it's fun. Like, when I have these maces or just one mace, even in my like backyard, in my home, like I just like looking at it and I want to go train with it. It's something that like it invites me to train with it. And you can think it also, if you buy it, it's an investment, and it's not really, there's not much difference to getting a set of dumbbells as opposed to getting a pair of, or even like a 2 or just one mace. It's like a really not that big of a difference. So it's super fun to train with this. It is much more versatile. There's also much more potential to increase the weight and progress in that regard as well. And I think it's just a much more refined design for doing these swings, because the sledgehammer, yes, it's made for swinging as well, for example, hitting something, breaking walls, objects, but this one is truly designed for this, the exercise purposes in mind, and I think for that it's much more convenient. As I mentioned, you can substitute it, but also it's paradoxical that now that I've trained with this, now that I've trained a lot with this, and I know how to swing it, and I know how to control my body, and I know how to do a lot of volume, these are like useful tools for me. Like, I can utilize this, but I cannot fully like substitute these tools. Like I can do all these swings and I can get pretty good benefits, and for example, train with a single arm. But when you're beginning, it's I'd say it's much more difficult to approach it with these ones. But bottom line is, getting sledgehammers, it's much better than having nothing. So if you are opposed to getting these, or you just can't even have access to them, and you have access to sledgehammers, get them. That's very good. But if you have no good reason to avoid to avoid the maces and clubs, go get them, because the benefits do outweigh the benefits of the sledgehammer. That is just the case. All right. Hope that this video helps you and clears you out. Also really the differences here, and you understand even physically that they are very different objects, and even though you can train with them in a similar manner, there are differences. So nevertheless, mace training amazing, and I really hope that I can inspire you to even more people to try it out. Let's go.